we continue, from a resistance standpoint, we continue to have more and more issues with a lot of weeds, one of which this year, again, continues to be smartweed, okay? We really need to get a handle on this smartweed. I've got a lot of growers that'll go out, I say a lot, I've got some growers that'll go out, they'll use Gambit and Regiment is really the go-to when it comes to smartweed. But folks, if you go out and use Gambit and Regiment and it doesn't work, and 14 days later you come back and you realize it doesn't work, we don't have options. I went out this year and actually, as a result of some of the resistant smartweed that we found, I went out and took a look at some large smartweed, trying to control it. I sprayed everything that I could think of. I wish I could tell you outside of Regiment and Gambit there was something that worked, but I have yet to find anything. If you miss that first application and it gets big on you, I've yet to find anything that would work. Sharpen was probably the best at terms of taking it down initially. 12-inch, 14-inch smartweed. 7 days after application, I had 95% desiccation of smartweed. 3 weeks later, you couldn't tell I sprayed it. 3 weeks later, it had all regrown and you basically had no activity out of Sharpen. We looked at Storm. We looked at Storm plus Propanil. We ran every combination I could think of, and I wish I could tell you there were some that was successful, but I found none. And I guess the importance there is, Sharpen would work. Storm, Propanil would work, but it's all about being timely with those applications when it comes to some of these weeds that we have a tendency to have resistance to. Now from that, I'm going to pivot, and I want to talk today, at least now, about two new tools. One that is definitely going to be here in 2026, and the other that is approaching commercialization. The first one that I'm going to mention is Voluto. Okay, Voluto is a seed treatment that goes on rice. Voluto will be commercialized and available in 2026 through UPL as a seed treatment. What does Voluto do? Voluto actually safens rice, or it improves the safety of rice to clomazone. Clomazone or Command is used on 97% of our Arkansas rice acres, and that's what we need to be doing, folks. It's a good way to start, at least for barnyard grass control, as well as some other grasses. I've got in this tray, can everyone see this tray here? Probably some of y'all can't see this tray. Those in front, can you see this tray? I have 2 rows of rice that are what color, Eddie? I have 2 rows of rice that are what color, Eddie? Green. Okay. But Eddie, I sprayed this all with the same herbicide. It all got sprayed with Command. This got sprayed with 0.8 of a pint of Command on a silt loam soil like what we have here. It got sprayed. The difference is, actually what I did is I sprayed this and I put it in the grow chamber where it had 75-degree maximum temperature and a 50-degree minimum. Why did I do that? I was trying to simulate rice growing conditions. If I go and I put it out here now, folks, we've got 95-degree temps. You wouldn't get any damage like this. And what we have found, what we see is that we basically are able to lessen the amount of injury that we see from clomazone on rice, okay? A lot of folks are scared of clomazone. They're scared of the amount of injury that they see. Now, I'm not going to sit here today and tell you that this completely alleviates all the injury. If you look at this plant here, I still have a little bit of white. What I have seen in my research is the amount of injury that we're going to get from clomazone, I can basically cut it in half. So if I get 50% bleaching, I'm going to get about 25% bleaching if I use Voluto as a seed treatment. Now, the benefit of that, also what we've seen is, when we have Voluto as a seed treatment, that rice grows off better. That Voluto actually causes a stress response in the rice that enables the rice to metabolize that clomazone. When it does that, the roots are able to grow better. We typically see about a 50% increase in root production early on prior to flooding, we'll get about a 50% increase in root production or biomass production of roots where we have Voluto on the seed. Something else that we have with Voluto is that it safens rice to encapsulated acetochlor. Encapsulated acetochlor would be warrant. Now, I'm not telling you today that warrant is labeled for use in rice. There's efforts around hopefully bringing forward an encapsulation, but today there is no encapsulated warrant or encapsulated acetochlor in rice. There are several encapsulated products out there. We've had a lot of success. Actually, if you look behind, right in front of that Voluto sign there is clomazone on that rice. There is multiple applications of warrant on that rice. Warrant went out delayed pre on that rice and that pass that you see right there. And folks, if you look back here to my left, you can see the barnyard grass population and you can see the springletop population. Okay, so we did a very, very good job in there with Voluto seed treatment. Another herbicide that I want to talk about today is Canali. Canali is a new mode of action. Right now the EPA is saying that it's probably going to receive registration in the fall of 2026. That means we'd have it in 2027 unless something happens that we could get it earlier. But that's what we're hearing as of today. Canali Complete is a product that FMC will bring forward. Canali Complete is a combination, a co-pack. It is a co-pack, meaning that you're going to have one package material that's going to have Command in it, and when you purchase that, you're also going to have the other component, which will have the Canali in it. Canali is a new mode of action for rice. Many of you have heard that FMC is bringing forward a new mode of action for rice. It is a residual herbicide. It is not a post-emergence herbicide. What does Canali control? Canali controls highly effectively these two weeds right here. Okay? This is barnyard grass in my left hand. This is springletop in my right hand, okay? Leptocloa. And when I say springletop, it doesn't matter whether it's loose head, whether it's tight head. We've had very, very good luck. This herbicide is one of the most effective that I have seen on these. Canali is not a broad spectrum herbicide. It is very, very effective on these two weeds. It is not going to control broadleaf weeds. It is not going to control sedges. Okay, so it's not going to bring anything to that clomazone application other than the fact it's helping to protect us on these. And we all know the number one weed in Arkansas is what? Arkansas rice is barnyard grass. This herbicide plays very well with everything we've mixed it with. I've mixed it with propanil, rice star, you name it. Any herbicide you want to name, I have mixed it with, and it mixes extremely well. I've seen no antagonism associated with those. You've got to use it from a post-emergent standpoint. If you put it out post-emergence or early post, you're going to have it with an effective post-emergence herbicide because this isn't going to control weeds post-emergence. I prefer that you start with it at planting, pre-emergence. If you start with it at planting, that's the best option. On a silt-loam soil, we can put it out at planting. We can come back early post. I want y'all to follow me down here. Let's look at number 4 and number 5. Number 5. This is Canali Complete. This is Canali Complete on row rice. Now, folks, I'll be the first to tell you that that's not the only herbicide out there. That's Canali Complete down at planting. We came back with Canali Complete post-emergence. We put a post-emergence grass material with that. We put Gambit with that on 3-leaf rice. We came back at 6-leaf rice. We put out some Prowl. We put out some Facet. We put out some Regiment. We put out a wide assortment of herbicides. So I don't want you to sit there and say that's only Canali Complete. But Canali Complete is a major component of the residual that you see out there in that program. What you have here in number 5, that is a 4-pass program. I will tell you today, if you're growing row rice in the state of Arkansas, about 80 to 85% of the time, you're going to need a 4-pass program due to the pigweed, due to all the other different weeds we've got out there. We've got to have a 4-pass program in order to make it work. Folks, in flooded rice, I can easily make a 3-pass program work. Sometimes I make a 2-pass program work, but a 3-pass is definitely where we are in flooded. I'm not there in fur irrigated rice. When you go to fur irrigated rice, if you go to fur irrigated rice, I want to reiterate this. If you're not willing to spend an extra $30 or $40 on your weed control program, you better stay out of fur irrigated rice because it will eat your lunch, okay? Because we don't have the benefit of the flood that we see out here in this fur irrigated system. If you're not asking, you should be asking. What does Canali Complete look like on weeds? What does it do to them? Well, basically what it does is they fail to produce a root system. They fail to produce a root system. So here we are. This is actually Springle Top. These Springle Tops I pulled, they were close to each other, except this one was not in a Canali Complete plot. It was not in a Canali plot. This one was. Does anyone see the difference in these plants? Okay. This plant has essentially no root system associated with it. And so what you'll do, the barnyard grass is the same way. So when you come through there, the plants, if you just hit them, they're just going to fall over. They're actually going to uproot as a result if they were still in there. The one other thing I will mention about this, on a clay soil, we do not have the opportunity to spray 2 applications. A clay soil, the rate structure is going to be such we can only make 1 application. What I've seen on clay soils, if that clay soil begins to dry and it begins to crack, what's the problem we see? We start cracking our herbicide, weeds start emerging. What I have seen with Canali is if that barnyard grass or Springle Top has just emerged, and I'm talking 1/2 inch, I'm not talking 2-inch, 3-inch plants, but if it has just emerged in that crack, and I go to flood, and I close that crack back up, I go to flood, the Canali will reach back and get it, okay? Now, if I've got plants out there 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall, and that crack, they've come through that crack, good luck. It's not going to happen. One other thing I want to mention, I'm going to pivot back to this Veludo that I think also excites me back with what we've got out here. I see a gentleman here in front of me that just jogged my memory. The one thing that actually really excites me about this, if we can get this encapsulation registered here in rice, weedy rice, the amount of weedy rice suppression that we've actually gotten with this has been extremely, extremely impressive. We're getting about 60% control of weedy rice when we put Veludo on the seed and we come back with a delayed pre-application of warrant. Again, warrant's not labeled as of today. Now, I want to leave that, and I want to mention just some other things that we had going on this year. Last week, I put out an aerial drift trial at Pine Tree in a 30-acre soybean field on brake herbicide. Brake is labeled by ground today in rice. It's a 3-leaf and beyond application. We cannot use it by air. We are making every effort possible to try to get an aerial application of brake. What that would do for us, many of you may have heard of Sonar. Sonar is a very strong aquatic herbicide. It looks good in water. I've done a decent amount of work with it in water. We've got good rice tolerance in water. I'm hoping here in the near future, very, very near future, we can get an aerial application of brake here in the state of Arkansas. I'm extremely optimistic about that. A couple of other things that I'm going to mention here is that these weeds right here, and I feel like I talk about these the last couple of years, and every year I swear they're not going to get any worse, and they get worse every year. This is rice flat sedge. This is yellow nut sedge. Now, there's a couple of other sedges that I don't have today. Small flower umbrella sedge is another one that we're seeing more and more of in the state of Arkansas. I really think of that kind of being a California weed, but I am seeing it. Actually, I have a little bit of it here on the station. It showed up a couple of years ago. And then another one that I'm really, really focusing on is white margin sedge. We're starting to see white margin sedge move across the state of Arkansas. What we have found, we've just completed some work where last year, thank goodness to you that are here, I mentioned white margin sedge. We collected about 35, 40 samples last fall across the state. We looked at those. Every sample that we collected was ALS resistant. Okay, every one of them was ALS resistant. We've gone in and we began to start looking at solutions. What we found thus far on white margin sedge is Basagran and Loyant appear to be our two best options. Propanil would burn it down, it would grow back. I tried propanil. Propanil Basagran did not look as good as Basagran by itself. 2,4-D, I would say, was probably my third best option. The problem you run in with 2,4-D is you've got such a narrow window that you can apply it. And then the second thing is there's areas of the state that we just can't use it, okay? So Loyant and Basagran appeared to be the two best options. The biggest thing I think, that, again, that we run into with these weeds is we have a tendency to spray Regiment, Gambit, we spray New Path, we spray Postscript, we spray all these ALS herbicides, and unfortunately, including yellow nut sedge today, we're starting to see a good bit of yellow nut sedge with some ALS resistance. But our rice flat sedge here, better than 50% of the rice flat sedge we have in Arkansas today is ALS resistant. There was a lot of Basagran and a lot of Propanil that went out this year to control this weed right here, okay? Because that's the only way really we could effectively control it. One other thing that I went out, had a lot of questions on this year, first year that I've ever had it, and it seemed to be probably about June 15th, phone call after phone call after phone call. Folks were wanting to take High Card or take Rice Star and High Card and mix them together. Provisia and High Card and mix them, Provisia and Rice Star and mix them together. Provisia and High Card are much better on weedy rice than they are on barnyard grass. And folks were trying to get a little more bang for their buck out there on that barnyard grass. And so I went and did some studies where I started looking at small barnyard grass, big barnyard grass, small weedy rice, big weedy rice. I haven't analyzed the data yet. I did rate those plots. Basically what I saw was if you mix High Card and you mix Rice Star together, High Card's got what in it? Okay, it's also got quizalofop. It's quizalofop, but what else does it have in there in addition to what Provisia has? It's got a safener. Okay, it has isoxadiaphin as a safener. What does Rice Star have in it? It has a safener, isoxadiaphin. So guess what? When I take High Card and I put which has a safener, I put Rice Star together, which has a safener, I start getting a high rate, a 2x rate of safener. What I saw was if we had big barnyard grass and I mixed Rice Star together and I mixed High Card together, I had less barnyard grass control than if I had pulled and left the Rice Star out. We had too much safener in that system, okay? Now, I didn't see that with Provisia because the Provisia did not have any safener in it, but the High Card already has safener in it. So we're going to get all that together. We'll probably be showing some of that this winter. Last thing I want to mention is it's been 5 years since we did a rice weed management survey, a written survey. We're going to do one this fall, this winter. We would appreciate any help in terms of folks filling that out. What that does is it helps us prioritize our research where we're going to focus our efforts in the next 5 years. So please take part in that. In addition to that, I'm going to send 2 of my graduate students out next week. They're going to go to southern part of the state and start working their way north. They're going to be in soybean fields and they're going to be in rice fields, and we're going to get out and we're going to start looking at the weed populations in these fields and trying to understand what are the most common and prevalent weeds that we have across the state at this time of year, because those are the weeds that we've got to be addressing. If they're out there at this time of year, they're setting seed, they're going to be problems next year. So we're going to go out and we're going to start doing some survey work. I'm going to hopefully get the students in contact with the county agents, and we're going to work together to at least get some handle as to what's happening in the state. So with that, again, I appreciate the support that we get from the rice industry, that being the farmers, the consultants, The Rice Promotion Board, the industry as a whole, the chemical industry, we appreciate all that you do to help make weed control successful in rice in the state of Arkansas, as well as the other crops that we deal with.